Hi, and welcome to Volume 4 of Richard's FM. I've got a couple of things to say before we get stuck in today. One, the playlist that I made, the Richard's FM Volume 3, or the Volume 1s, weren't public, so I'm sorry about that one. I've made them public now, so you can find them and listen to them to your heart's content, which you probably will. Right, cool, that out of the way. I've had a few people asking me why I can't play music while I'm doing these videos, and I really would love to, in whatever format that would be. The only problem with that is, and I've been looking into this and watching a few videos and stuff, the copyright claims and the copyright strikes that you get for using other people's music seem to be pretty sharp. You know, they seem to be all over you. So, especially if you're making money, which obviously I'm not. But they seem to be pretty switched on with catching people for copyright claims, and it's not necessarily the artists, it's the publishing companies and labels and things like that. So yeah, I'm not going to do that. We're going to carry on just using the Spotify playlists. I am in the process of doing a YouTube playlist as well, where the music videos for the songs that I feature are held in, it's called Richard's FM as well, where there are music videos. Otherwise you'll just be stuck with a rather large thumbnail of the album, but the songs are still there, so mostly the music videos, because most of the songs I've picked seem to be singles, not exclusively, but that's what I'm going for. So yeah, that's why, and that's why we're going to have to stick with what we're doing, I'm afraid, because it's too much of a rave and too much of a pain in the backside to be dealing with that, and I'm just trying to have a fun, so we're not doing that. So all that being said, we can get stuck into this week's tracks. We've got 13 tracks this week. And we're going to start off with a track from BB Doobie, who we had a couple of weeks ago with her cover of Don't You Forget About Me, My Simple Minds. Really good cover. My granddaughter has informed me that BB Doobie is one of her favourite artists. So I asked her what tracks that she liked. And she said a track called Care, which is from her album from last year. It's called Fake It Flowers, which I haven't listened to all of, but the couple of tracks I've listened to sound pretty good. The single from that, Care, or one of the singles from that called Care, is pretty good. I'm liking it. It's got a right 90s indie rock thing going on. Sounds quite a bit like Feeder, which is good because I like Feeder. And I don't think the rest of the album is like that. I think there's like a full mix of variety of songs on there, but this song I'm liking the whole 90s indie rock thing, because I like that the first time round because I'm old enough for that. So yeah, check out Care by BB Doobie from Fake It Flowers, and see what you think. I think it's a good start personally. Good guitars, good energy to it. The video's very sort of lo-fi homemade sort of thing that I think she's done, just her performing, but again, worth a look and worth a listen. So that's track one. Track two is by Bombay Bicycle Club. These are, I think, Scottish. I'm not looked into that too much, but they're a Scottish indie sort of rock band. And their album that they had out last year was released last year, called Everything Else Has Gone Wrong. The title track from that was a single, and I really like it. It's one of my favourite tracks from last year. It's very upbeat with a title like that. You wouldn't expect it to be an uplifting, hope-filled song. And it doesn't start out that way, but it ends up that way. It's got a refrain at the end that just, it hits you, and it uplifts you. It's an uplifting kind of song. Almost Coda-like in the way that it refrains at the end. So yeah, I'm really liking that. The rest of the album is actually really good as well. I've only listened to that a couple of times, but it was a good album. I enjoyed that. But that track, Everything Else Has Gone Wrong, give that a go. See how you get on. Super. Right, so last week I was talking about a band called Frightened Rabbit that I was just starting to get into, or listen to. So I listened to The Winter of Mixed Drinks, which is the 10th anniversary release of this album. We've got a few anniversary releases this week, another one from Metallica in a bit, and PJ Harvey as well. But Frightened Rabbit, this is the 10th anniversary of The Winter of Mixed Drinks. And one of the singles from there It's called Swim Until You Can't See Land, and it's really good. When you listen to, sometimes when you listen to a song, you think, yes, that completely fits in with what I like. It's completely what I enjoy, and it just hits you and just gets stuck in your head. And that's that track for me. The rest of the album, I've listened to the other singles off it, and they're all just as good. They're all as lively, not necessarily lyrically upbeat, but musically upbeat music. And I think it's worth a listen. The Master System album I was on about with Scott Hutchinson that he did launch shortly before he died is not necessarily that. I listened to that again last week, and it's good, and there's a couple of really good tracks on it, but it's a lot more, I don't want to say aggressive, but noisy. But Frightened Rabbit is less noisy and more pop sensibilities, maybe, definitely melody sensibilities and energy. So yeah, I'm liking that. Seems to be my new favourite old band. So we'll see how we get on. The album sounds really good, so go for that. The next track is by The Levellers. It's called Food Roof Family from their last album Peace, which again came out last year. That's a really good album. It's a proper return to form, I think, for The Levellers. They've had a few albums where they've been a bit patchy mid-period, but Peace, I really like it. It's a good variety of Levellers tracks. It's proper classic Levellers done in a more recent sort of style with a bit of growth to it. Food Roof and Family is a standout track from that. If you feel like you've not heard the Levellers before, this Levelling, I'll even get my fingers off the way that. Levelling the Land is the classic Levellers album, and there isn't a duff track on here from 15 years to The Boatman, all the way to the Battle of the Beanfield. They have a proper social awareness and a political insight, which is what endemic to pretty much everything that they do. And it's a good folk rock album. And yeah, quality, that classic. Listen to that if you want to get into the Levellers, and also listen to Peace. So you can have the first, the Levelling the Land was the second album. So yeah, check that out, and check Food Roof and Family out. So another returnee this week after BB Doobie is Lucy Spragon, whose new album Choices came out last week. I've picked the track Sober off that, which was actually a single release last year. A good song. The thing about Lucy Spragon is, and this album in particular, it seems, it's a very personal album, and you can tell that if you watch the video for Sober. It's actually quite, I can't decide whether it's painful or moving, but it seems to be done in one shot, and it's just her singing and facing the camera, and the emotion in it that she portrays it seems real. You know, she's been through quite a bit in the last year or two, from what I can ascertain. And it all seems to have come in this album Choices. So I haven't listened to the whole thing yet, but a bunch of the singles I've listened to already that have been pre-released were all really good, all well written, all very personal. So if you want something, I mean, it's not Adele, which is not a bad thing. Lucy Spragon does her own shtick, and it's worth it for a heartfelt album. Then yes, try it. And Sober and the track I had on the other week will give you an idea for that as well. So yeah, we'll do that. So yes, our second anniversary album, of which, I like an anniversary album. It gives me an excuse to listen to something again. And in the case of this one, I don't need much of an excuse. So it's 35 years since this was released, Metallica's Master of Puppets. If you've not heard this, what are you doing with your life? Listen to it. Such a good album. It's rated as one of the classic thrash and metal albums ever, but it is so much more than that. It is an accessible heavy metal album. Now, Metallica were the first ones to introduce me to accessibility in that genre, and before that I'd heard maybe some Anthrax and a bit of Testament or something, odds and sods, and not really found a way in. And I've said before, I like melodies and I like hooks and stuff like that to get into, just because I do. I like a hook. And the first thing, well, before I got this, I got this. Yes, one absolute storming classic. So between that, which was my first Metallica record, and this, which came a short while after, A friend at work got me into this, told me to listen to Orion, which you probably can't see on there, but there isn't a Duff track on this album, but Orion is an 8.5-minute instrumental, and between that and this, they taught me that heavy music can be melodic and riffy and accessible, which is really what I needed to hear at the time, and still do. I still like accessible heavy music, as well, accessible any music really. So yeah, Orion on here, absolute classic track. I've not put it in the playlist. I put Welcome Home My Sanitarium, which I think, if you've not heard this album before, is a good doorway into it. I mean, there's all the classics on here, obviously Battery and Master of Puppets and Leper Messiah. But Welcome Home Sanitarium will give you a doorway into this, hopefully, and then just listen to that as well. If you've only heard the Black Album, of which there is nothing wrong with the Black Album, it's a really, really, really good album of that period, and I love it. But if you've only heard Enter Sandman and Nothing Else Matters, listen to that, and listen to that with its 35th anniversary stick thingy do lots. So yeah, do that. That's your Metallica sermon over for the week. Enjoy Welcome Home Sanitarium. Next, we've got Mogwai. I mentioned they had a new album out last week and it was at #1 in the charts, and I'm not sure whether it is still or not. Mogwai are a difficult proposition for people who haven't listened to them before. And I've tried. I've had a couple of albums over the years that I've struggled to get into. And I like odd tracks. There is like a standout track called Rano Piano, which if you go on Mogwai's Spotify thing will be there in the top. It's really good. They are basically an instrumental sort of post-rock band, and what that means is they do space in their songs and atmosphere. And by space, I mean it's full of stars. It means it's got space in between the music. There's a whole vibe and an atmosphere to it that is all of that genre's own. The track from the new album, which I haven't listened to all the way through, but sounds okay what I have listened to, is Richie Sacramento, which is one of their rare tracks that they've actually put lyrics to and vocals to. So I think that is in the same vein as the Metallica thing. It's an accessible way to maybe get into Mogwai in a way. Certainly probably the most accessible thing on that album that I've heard so far. If you don't like that, you won't like Mogwai, and if you do like it, I mean, same as I do, I might start checking it out again because I haven't done for a long time. And they do a lot of soundtrack work as well, because their music sort of fits straight into soundtrack work as well. In the same way that Nine Inch Nails have started doing, and I've been doing for a little while now. So yeah, Mogwai, Richie Sacramento from As the Love Continues. Next we have Pearl Jam from the last album Gigaton, which came out last year, and a track called 7 O'Clock. Pearl Jam have a habit of meandering a bit on their albums, and sometimes in just the songs, and maybe that's not a bad thing necessarily, but it kind of puts you off for a casual listener. And I've got all of Pearl Jam's albums, and Gigaton is the 10th, and I really like Pearl Jam, so I've put 7 O'Clock on, which again is an accessible track from their album. There's also Dream of Clairvoyance, I think, is the first lead single on that, which again is really good. 7 O'Clock, it's got a good guitar line, it's got good lyrics, it changes course a little bit through the song, which isn't a bad thing because you don't get bored at all. Yeah, it's my favourite track on the album, I think, as well as Dreams of Clairvoyance. I'm not sure it's called that, but I will have to check that out. Yeah, so check 7 O'Clock out. If you like 7 O'Clock, you'll probably like this. This is Pearl Jam's second album, Versus. I mean, it's not technically called anything, but Versus was the title it was given at the time. This is my favourite Pearl Jam album. It's got Daughter on it, an Animal, and Elderly Woman Behind a Counter in a Small Town, which is just rearview mirror as well. Absolute classic Pearl Jam songs. Start to finish good album. So check that out if you fancy some Pearl Jam. Obviously there are more Pearl Jam's albums available, should you need to. But this is really good. Check out 7 O'Clock, see what you think, and let me know in the comments. So that's that. Our third anniversary album this week is PJ Harvey, To Bring You My Love. Now, she's reissuing all of her albums at the minute on vinyl with demos albums, which is all well and good to be reissued. Not really into demos personally, unless there are demos of unreleased songs. Otherwise, you're just listening to, I don't know, works in progress of songs that you turn out to love and that you know, and for some reason that doesn't really do it for me. Regardless of that, I've taken this opportunity to put Down by the Water from To Bring You My Love to attention. This is a really good album. Down by the Water was the first PJ Harvey song I'd heard. This album is 25 years old, which makes me feel ridiculously old, but there you go. Yeah, Down by the Water. I put the video in the YouTube playlist as well, which is good. A bit strange, but really good. A bit like the album, really. It's a bit strange in places, and it's completely off there. She is unique, PJ Harvey. She does what she wants, which you can't argue with. Much respect for. And most of the time, she does what she wants in the context of one album. So yeah, good stuff. Check Down by the Water out if you like that. Check this out. And then the most mainstream album she had out was Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea. Again, the most mainstream, still a good indie rock album. Check that one out as well, and see how you get on. So that's PJ Harvey's anniversary thing. So, cover version this week. I've actually found a cover version to put on while I was rooting through Spotify, as you do. Fell down a bit of a Spotify rabbit hole and ended up with a cover of Jimmy Eat World. This album, this album is classic Bleed American, Jimmy Eat World. They were really big at the time this came out in the emo sort of field. This album is really good. The title track off it, the middle, or the lead track off it, the middle, has been covered by a band called Pomplamoose, who, that is, yes, Pomplamoose. Really strange band name, really good cover. It's got like a funky type bass line going on with it, gentle sort of funk rhythms to it, almost lounge music-y sort of vibe, but really, really good. The video's quality as well, all just sat in a room in a rehearsal space playing this song, socially distanced with masks on, which you just don't see in videos anymore, or recently. So yeah, their version of The Middle by Jimmy Eat World by Pomplamoose. Check that out, see what you think. I think it's something a bit different for a cover version, and I'm liking that. So, good stuff. Excuse me. Next is a guy called Ricky Warwick, who used to be in a band called The Almighty. That's where he first came from, who I really liked at the time in my 20s. They had 7 or 8 albums out and then split up. Ricky then went on to, a few years later, went on to form Black Star Riders with Scott Gorham from Thin Lizzy. Couldn't really get into them. I tried, and I've tried a few times, and for some reason it just didn't really click. Never really liked Thin Lizzy, to be fair. Not sure whether that's to do with it. So, yeah, Ricky Warwick's got a new solo album. I've tried his solo stuff out and not got on very well with that. But this is like a proper return to form. It's a proper good song-based hard rock album, and with punk and a punk edge going through it, because Ricky comes from a punk background technically. Yeah, it's a good album. If you want a good solid hard rock album, that's the one to go for. The track I put on though, is Time Don't Seem to Matter, which is the rock ballad-ish thing track on the album. It's atypical of what the rest of the album is about, but it's really, really good, and it fits in more with the playlist. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough, so I'm keeping that going. So yeah, Ricky Warwick from the album When Life Was Hard and Fast, which came out last week. Time Don't Seem to Matter. See what you think. I think that's really good. It's definitely a standout track from the album for me. First time I heard it, I thought, yeah, no, I like that. He's always been good at writing a slower edged song as well as harder stuff, but the slower song he does really well. So yeah, check that out and see what you think. So next is Throwback Corner. And what I mean by that is an old band that I used to listen to years ago. Now, I've been listening to, and this is the Silencers we're talking about. You've probably never heard of these. They were a Scottish Celt rock band, lumped in with Big Country and Simple Minds and U2 at the time, and really good in their own right. I'm a fan of all of those bands, but the Silencers have their own sound. This was the debut, A Letter from St Paul. Really good album, still stands up now, so I would check that out. But I haven't put a track from this in the playlist, just to be an awkward sod. This was the second to last album called Come. Now this album is a bit patchy. There are some good stuff on it. Siddhartha, She Found Me. The track I put on is A Blues for Francie Brady, because it's one of those immediate tracks that I was discussing earlier. Excuse me. Yeah, it really is a good, lively, upbeat song. It's got good lyrics. It just hits the spot. I think you should try that one out. If you don't like it, then you probably don't like the rest of the stuff, because it's all, I mean, it's not similar. They do quite a bit of different stuff. But Blues for Francie Brady, really, really nice song. I hope you like that one, because I love that. And this is my throwback stuff for this week. Not sure we'll do that every week, but you know, I had to get that out of my system. And the last track is by William the Conqueror, our third returning artist this week. Again, sort of Americana-y, country, indie rock sort of stuff. They've got a new album came out a few days ago now called Maverick Thinker, which is the third album, and I've just been listening to it literally while I've been walking the dog before I did this. And it's such a good album. It might even be my favourite album of the year so far. A lot more cohesive than the previous two albums. This is the third album, as I say. Maverick Thinker is a lot more of a cohesive effort from what I've just heard. Shades of hints of the blues in it, hints of Americana-y, country, but a lot livelier, proper songs this time, proper, you know, they spent a bit more time in LA, so I think the American influence has rubbed off on it. The track I put on is The Deep End, which the video for is brilliant. All the videos for, that's the fifth single from this album, excuse me. The video for The Deep End is just quality. All the videos they've released from this album have had old footage in them from various times, whether it's the 50s or 60s. I think one of the Move On, I think I was watching earlier on, had old family footage from Joffrey's past and stuff. So I think, you know, watch the video, which I'll put in the playlist. And see, because the video is just entertaining as own. It's a proper 80s club scene, nightclub people with all the goths and all the 80s dressed people having a laugh at that time, and it's just so funny to watch. It really is entertaining. And the song itself, The Deep End, is quality. Absolutely, really, really quality. Really good, energetic. Well, not really energetic. Really good, upbeat, lively song. And I really like it. Can't recommend William the Conqueror enough. So yeah, that's your songs for this week. 13 tracks. They're all in a public playlist on Spotify this week that you can actually check out and listen to. I've put them all in the big Richards FM playlist on there, and obviously the YouTube playlist, which is still a work in progress, because I keep getting distracted when I get on there and just watching other stuff, as you do. So yeah, it should be on. Some of the stuff's on there. And we'll have some more tracks next week, and we'll see how we go. Right, brilliant. Take care, and hope you enjoy some of the music, and leave comments if you feel the urge. That would be good to know that I'm moving in the right direction with people, and that people like what I'm putting on for them. Oh, for you. Yeah, and you. All right, take care. Have a good week. See ya.